Hey everybody, Neon here, another analysis video casting. Hey everybody, Neon here, another video. This time it is me playing Blue Red Tempo. We finally have the market open for all variety of cards, so I was like, I want to get in on some of this constructed action, and this was a deck that I had largely complete from just stuff that I had opened, so I decided to go ahead and build it, and I've had a few different builds of the Blue Red Tempo deck, and this is the one that I've arrived on for right now. There's a lot to do with it. I'll actually kind of like go through with some of the specifics of my deck choices over the course of the video because it's a longer one because my opponent not the fastest player in the world, but there's nothing wrong with that. So without any further ado, let's get into the game. So yes, I am on the Blue-Red Tempo deck. You can see my lineup right there. My opponent's deck, a little bit unusual because they're playing Bloodseeker as opposed to something like the Bounty Hunter, for example. I think would be a lot better in this deck. This is the only, I think, I mean, and no Axe, I guess, also from their deck. So it's clearly a budget deck that they're playing a couple of weird card choices in that. But other than that, I felt like the game was good anyway. That is actually something that I have seen from some of the games that when I am playing, like my decks, I don't enjoy playing budget decks personally. It's always something I find frustrating because, like, wow, I'm playing with these crappy cards. I wish I could be playing with better cards. So yeah, I wanted to. I generally find that it's not that bad so far. Of like, if you play well, you can with a budget deck, you can do okay, but it's still not amazing. But yeah. So right here, I am of course gonna think of a way that I can protect my boy Ogre Magi. Now, I actually, interesting choice here of going with the Cunning Plan over the Compel. There's actually some reasons that downstream of this. We'll take a moment to look at the other boards when we get there to kind of show you. But like, also, this means that if I Cunning Plan it, then he kills the creep that's in front of him, then maybe he gets the Compelled. I have to use the Compelled next turn as well. In order to save the Ogre Magi, by Cunning Planning him away, it's very likely I don't have to do that if I don't have to. Like, if I have other things I want to do. Especially when I have, at least I had one copy of Prey on the Week in my hand before, and now I have two. So I really want to be able to use those if I need to. Opponent playing out the Assassin's Apprentice, which is, okay, I'm surprised that they didn't go for the 2 damage there, which is, but that's fine. But yeah, so this is especially where I want to be able to use my Prey on the Week if possible. Because obviously there's a good chance of lining up a pretty big hit. So this one is also a it was actually a hard decision about how I was going to use that Compel, if I wanted to use that Compel even, because once again, because of this Prey on the Week. I can never remember that one because it's like close to the biblical thing of, like something about the meek. Yeah, no, I always make that one so Prey on the Week. So yeah, I'm trying to set up a good Prey on the Week in the right hand lane if I can. There's a lot of potential there. Interesting to note that Bloodseeker is sort of a counter to Prey on the Week in a weird way, because he is healing himself up. In creep combat, he does not hold any damage on him, so he's decreases the hound count. So the opponent ends up deciding to go with the left lane for the LC, which makes a good deal of sense. If they have like a duel in hand or something like that, they can obviously kill my Ogre. But with the duels in my hand, I'm pretty interested in killing their Bloodseeker, because I just shutting them off of one of the colors in this lane seems pretty good. This is an assault laddered lane, so there's a lot of potential for explosiveness here. So I am going to be doing that eventually. I think that they can't remember if they play anything here. Probably not very much. But yeah, so we'll talk a little bit about the deck while we. Oh yeah, they do this in order to get him betrayed. I respond by dueling, and then also leaves my LC in exactly 1 health after a creep combat. which is pretty great. Sometimes you actually do want your heroes just to die in creep combat or whatever. Like you don't care about it. Like for instance, one of the ones that I've realized again and again is oftentimes like saving a hero for a turn, and you know that it's going to just die at the beginning of the next turn for whatever reason. Like there's a conflagration or there's an ignite in the lane, something like this. You actually really do want to have it die like as soon as possible, so that it can just be refreshed and moved again as soon as possible. So this combat here, obviously, kind of what we expected. That this is a weird move. It doesn't end up actually mattering over the course of the game, but it's still a very strange decision. Take that, Axe. Gonna get you. So some of the cards in my hand/deck. I have a copy of At Any Cost in my hand. That card I've been playing it with this deck. It is very interesting. I have a card. For those of you maybe you don't recall, this is a 3-cost spell that deals 6 damage to everything, like including your stuff. So it actually means that when you have it in your hand/deck, but especially your hand, just the entire game can kind of warp around it, because if you can set up a good At Any Cost, it can just totally change the lane for you. And but other times it's just going to be kind of dead. So that'll be a card that you should watch carefully and start learning how to play with and against it. And constantly have it in your mind when you're playing against a controlling blue deck. It's also just like so good to have Kana for that reason. It's one of the, there's a lot of reasons that Kana is a lot better than I think that she looks like initially. Like when I first saw her, I wasn't like, yeah, this card is, you know, a baller. She's really good though, and for just very strange reasons in some ways. And one of them actually is At Any Cost, is that she's the only blue hero that'll just like consistently live through it, even if she has like some chip damage on her. So I pick up a Blink Dagger here. Obviously that is a baller card to have access to, and then the Phase Boots is great too, because it means that my Elsie will not die in creep combat if that's how things work out. Obviously, there's no creep there, which is fine. But yeah, so with the Sorla Khan here, this is a decision that my opponent makes that is a little bit strange. I can make it makes a lot of sense to me for going to the mid lane, because it's uncontested right now, and if she gets matched up against the Zeus, she'll have a good matchup. The right lane, she has a good chance of landing in front of the Kana, which can beat her up, and I was actually kind of like hoping that she would go there in order to play into At Any Cost. But decides instead to go for the left lane, which I didn't expect. Why did I do that? Why did I play out the Phase Boots? I'm trying to remember what the purpose was there, because she's going to die anyway. Like, I mean, I guess I think it's just the idea that like if they play out a burn spell to kill her, then won't trade with the Sorla Khan, which is what I would want in this instance. Yeah. Oh yeah, and this actually works out really, really well for me, because they play that out, which allows me to duel it, and that kind of takes a bit of time off the clock on this lane, which is clearly I'm sort of soft sacrificing this lane. Like I'm not going full on of just abandoning it. I generally like to do that. I have a hard time fully giving up in any lane, but this case I'm kind of just forcing them to commit more resources than they want. So I end up passing just to get the combat, kill the Sorla, get a little bit of gold. Other things about the deck, by the way. I've been really enjoying the Thunder God's Wrath, and it is a card that gets worse depending on how aggressive the metagame is, and the metagame is very aggressive right now. Well, and by bad against an aggressive metagame, I think that, like, really what I mean there is against Time of Triumph decks and just red decks in general, because they just have so many stats. And there's part of me that feels like I should switch him for Luna. Luna, like, also just absolutely spectacular card. She's without a doubt just total banger. Now, I am right now very much thinking about this at any cost, because it does a lot of work here, not quite killing the bristleback, but you can't get everything. I actually really do hope that my opponent just consciously played around that card when they were choosing their placement, their deployment this turn, because it was a very, very good call if they did. I mean, they could have just decided saying, "Oh, I want to trade with the LC in the left lane," but I mean, if I'm not sure. So yeah, I tank about this one for a little while. I also have the opportunity to do a Prey on the Weak for 4, which is reasonable, and it also saves my Kana, which is tempting. I think that I decided to do this, though, because it basically, if I'm going to be doing something like Prey on the Weak, then at any cost is just going to get shut down for a really long time. So I may as well sort of get use of it, and the Prey on the Weaks are going to be fine next turn if I drop my Ogre Magi into the lane. But yeah, I've been a bloody few turns here. Just lots of back and forth trading. Not unexpected. But yeah, by the way, the Demaging Ball that I got, part of the purpose of that one is in case I get lined up against an Assault Ladders. If I can find a way to clear one of those off, that's pretty handy. I'm hoping here in the left lane that I can set up a kill on the LC. Once again, I just like this idea of slowly, trying to slow things down as much as possible, force them to commit multiple heroes into the lane, stops them from doing something like an all-in here very easily. Because especially when you have to commit resources to actually fighting the heroes themselves, it's pretty attractive. Now, I do have the option here to duel the LC immediately. I'm not particularly interested in that because I think that that'll just probably induce the I guess if they do a coup de grace at that point, that isn't that bad. Maybe that would have just been better. I'm not sure. I mean, they do coup de grace here, which I'm happy about, honestly. Or not I'm not happy about. I'm like, it's more or less what I expected, so it's fine. But now I'm thinking a lot about that mid lane, because this is clearly where I might have some problems if the game does end up going long for a while, because this matchup, for instance, is not great. Yeah, so I'm trying to just induce them into committing more to that lane, maybe hoping to get something like an at any cost off here. Obviously could be pretty sick if they do devote a bunch of resources here. Like, I don't think that I have any more health items. Yeah, I don't right now. I also can play out just the Dimensional Portal in order to save my dude, my Zeus. Dimensional Portal, by the way, definitely all-star in construction. Not every version of this deck do I see playing it, but it's oftentimes just an absolute huge damage sponge. And it's also a good win condition in various ways. It does a lot in various circumstances. So that's another inclusion that I have in the deck that not everybody else does that I've seen. I need to spend more time looking at the various lists for it, though. But I get this is also, I guess, one of the challenges that there isn't quite like an established metagame yet, or a place to take a look at that. Like what are the good builds of these various decks, or what are the most successful versions of these various decks? I haven't seen that really yet. So right now I'm thinking about moving Zeus over to the left lane, because he's going to die here, obviously. But in the left lane, it's a weird decision to do this in some ways, because I already have lost my tower there. But this is also like once again me trying to set up maybe a sweeper in the right lane. I guess that I don't really have one available right now. Oh no, the purpose for this one is for Thunder God's Wrath at the beginning of the next turn, because I have the potential here to set up a pretty big double or triple even Thunder God's Wrath if I'm able to pick some more up in the upcoming turn. So being able to start off the new lane with that is obviously pretty dope. Now this is a absolutely bizarre play from my opponent. If they're just going for that 3 damage, I guess, and saving their creep, but like I don't know why it's that important. So that was a strange move, but I mean, got to get your damage in somehow, I guess. Yeah, man, that Bloodseeker just is going ham with his little keen-folk musket. This is me just cycling for cards, trying to find another copy of Thunder God's Wrath, and I do. So that's very nice. I mean, yeah, these I mentioned it before, but these cycle / reposition type cards are really good. Obviously, that positioning is strange. They had the opportunity to kill the Ogre here, and they chose not to. So that was another strange decision from my opponent. Going into the mid lane, because I'm anticipating them to go into the mid lane. And I want to set up a kill there. I also just want to... I probably could have gone right with the LC, to be honest. But I think that I can probably set up a... Like, part of it is I want to do the double Thunder God's Wrath of once in the first lane, once in the second lane. So having the Zeus here and then going over the next lane is pretty dope. So yeah, here I get the Bloodseeker, almost kill Sorla. Not quite though. The opponent now has to think about like how do they avoid getting double Thunder God's Wrath. So this is definitely a moment where they spend some bit of time tanking, because they often do. That their pace of play, as you've seen so far, is pretty deliberate. Is a good way to put it. But yeah, for right here, they're trying to think about like what do we do to stop this mega multi-kill from taking place, because if they lose both their LC and the Phantom Assassin, and also I guess the Sorla in the other lane too, then that's just kind of so far behind on board. Do have a copy of the Healing Salve though to keep the Phantom Assassin up. Go to the right lane now, though. But, like, that right lane is suddenly looking really spooky. So I'm going to have to think about how to get around that. I often feel like with this deck that there's just, like, not quite enough cheap interaction. But I guess there's just not very much cheap interaction that's good. By the way, this a good play from the opponent to do that here is an interesting line of being like, yeah, I'm behind, I need to get some card draw. Ordering there, not great. It would have been better to do that before they made any other choices. If they're saying, yeah, I'm going to be drawing cards, you want to actually assess that first. That decision, though, it is, in some respects, a little bit strange. Like, in a deck like this that I'm playing against, by the way, it's a second Thunder God's Wrath here, doing a bunch of damage, doing the Thunder Lord's work. When you have a deck like this, like, taking Ancients is totally possible to do. So I was a little bit surprised to see them do that. It's very conservative and shows a lot of weakness in their hand. Also, just by like I knew that the Phantom Assassin had the Blink Dagger in the left lane, and one of the things is that I would, like, by threatening something like this, Thunder God's Wrath, I knew that it would force them to blink away, or there was a good chance they were going to blink away because they had already killed the tower. But if I did that, then I would have a chance to Thunder God's Wrath them again. Dimensional Portal comes out. As I said, huge damage sponge. Huge damage sponge. Look at how much damage it's sponging up. But I even get another one to boot. Maybe Ogre Magi should be Luna. I'm not sure. I guess that doesn't really solve my early game problem. Maybe Zeus should be Luna. I'm still split on this, obviously. There are possibilities here. Blue just kind of has a problem with too many good cards. Which ones you want to actually mix into your deck. It's tough. Deck building is hard. Buying up a bunch of stuff. Axe obviously going to the right lane, which is where the party is at. But my Blink Dagger is active once again, so I can do something like if I have anything in this lane that I want to actively deploy and do something with, then I could use it here and move over, which is nice. Now, I was before playing some copies of Foresight, which would be good in this kind of position to allow me to just draw cards and cycle through my deck while I am sort of killing time in the left lane of the before blinking over to the right. In this case, I don't have that anymore. The card just kind of felt too clunky and awkward. So instead, I just de-portal out here. Now, the de-portal in some ways here might look a little bit strange. I'm obviously not planning on pushing this lane. The purpose here, honestly, is to just avert an all-in. Like, my opponent has 3 heroes coming up next turn, and if they all go left, like there is a real possibility that they could take down my tower. So I actually am specifically trying here to be like, okay, this is a damage sponge, and I mean they wouldn't even block very many of the heroes that are coming in, but just blocking the creeps is a huge source of damage, especially in a deck that they have copies of Assault Ladder. I can assume they have copies of Disciple of Nevermore as well. This time of Triumph here, it's for the purposes of obviously getting the lethal on this tower, but I'm also expecting that there's a good chance I'll be able to pick up some copies of Blink Dagger next turn, especially when I have these duels in hand that I can duel down some of my opponent's stuff, so I can blink them into the right lane in order to finish things off. I can think that I'm pretty good chance of doing a 2-turn lethal in this lane now that I have so many resources here. The main thing I'm worried about is something like coup de grace. If it's able to get that off on an opportune target. Nothing right now that they're not firing it off at the very least on the axe, so that's a good sign. But these Prey on the Weak by the by, they're going to be very solid. The first one is for 5, which is spectacular. But then I have another one in hand, and I also got a ping on that Ogre, so I'm able to do another Prey on the Weak and go up to 6 of them. So this is what I'm saying about having that 2-turn lethal potential. This is how you set it up. Just the amount of damage that card can output is really insane. I really underestimated Prey on the Weak initially because it's such a low, like the hounds are so small, but just having the extra bodies is so nice. I do end up thinking about this a little bit, see if I wanted to do something like a duel here. I decided to just keep it simple, stay aggro, go face, get a nice multicast in there too. Very, very sexy, very nice. Unfortunately, the Prey on the Weak in the next turn is probably not going to be quite as good. I have to do a little bit of math. Actually, no, it probably will still be pretty decent. This is also one of those things that when you're not against a blue deck, you just know, like, okay, this is... They just have infinite... I can go infinitely wide, and there's nothing that they can do about it. There's just so little ways to combat against a wide board for a deck like this. So I always take that as a cue to abuse it. Just being like, yeah, just go all in. What are you going to do? Getting 16 damage in this turn, so I just need 17 for next. So that's very nice. Big fat hit in. So yeah, now the only thing I have to worry about that's left in the game really is that left lane. Like if they really decide to go off there, then I will have some problems. But I think that it'll be really hard for them to do. I think it's to do 68 damage, which is a lot by most standards. And even like this, like I know that this kind of deck can do a lot of damage really quickly, if left to its own devices. In this case, it's going to be really hard to do that because all of the creeps are like A, they're going to the right lane now, and B, they're blocked. And when you don't have creep damage that's coming through, that's just a really important part of the equation, especially when you have to multiply it by the Assault Ladder and the Disciple of Nevermore type buffs. But I have nothing in this lane now, so I just have to kind of let them have their filthy, dirty way with me. Disciple of Nevermore. Damage 23 is the count right now. So remember, this is the lane that they also killed the assault ladders in. So for example, if they had kept that up, they would have another 6 damage right now. I mean, I know that's not quite how things work, because maybe that Disciple of Nevermore wouldn't have shown up if they hadn't have cycled the card earlier. And I mean, this was a very good strategic move there of Friendo. And the thing about that dude is, like, you might think, oh, it's a misclick. Like, it gives you a warning when you're about to shoot yourself, right? I mean, as it should be in the game. I appreciate that, but yeah. So they just unload as much damage as they can. They get up to 28, which isn't exactly impressive. They would have had an extra 8 damage had they kept up the tower, in which case I'm still alive, which is nice. Got a nice gold mine to end things off of their super aggro turn. Matters a ton right now. At this point, I'm just going to... I have the choice of whether to blink into the right lane or keep initiative. There's nothing that my hand really does with initiative, though, which is unfortunate. If I had something like another Time of Triumph in hand, I could see that would be good. I guess that the duel... Yeah, so with duel, it would have been possible to, like, go in there and maybe kill something or someone with it right off the bat, which is pretty solid. But I decided instead to just focus on getting in the damage, because I think that's more likely to be concerned. I guess I would have been, just looking at the composition of the lane there, I think that it probably actually just would have been lethal had I passed there, because they only have the bristleback, and I can duel that down. Let me just take a quick look here. Yeah, I think that it would have been just lethal. So this blink was, I believe, just a punt. But that's fine. Sometimes you can punt and win anyway. But that'll do it for today. Thank you so much for joining me. Of course, be sure to check out our sponsor in gaming and our submission page if you have any games that you want to share with us that you think would be really interesting. Thank you once again for joining me. I'm Neon. This has been a+space Games and then doing an analysis. Talk to y'all later.